My next question is from S, and he lives in the Isle of Man. And his question is, please, can you tell me all you know about ley lines in Bala, the Isle of Man, British Isles? And I chose this question because I'm excited to see what comes up. And I have to say, S, I don't know anything, consciously at least, about these ley lines in Bala in the Isle of Man. I know a little bit about ley lines, but nothing about those in particular. So I'm going to go into trance and just see what comes up for you. And there's an interesting card that we pulled up for your question, which is about self-forgiveness. So we'll see if that makes sense in a moment. And of course, if my memory serves me correctly, the Isle of Man is in between Britain and Ireland, sort of level with the Lake District and, yeah, Northern Ireland, I suppose. So I'm just kind of locating that area on my psychic screen. The first thing I want to say is that there's a very ancient energy. And there's a very new energy. It feels like a place where the ancient memory of man, or the ancient history of Earth, meets the new Earth. And so I'm seeing, it feels like a transition place, a place that, it also feels like a place where one might say the veil is thinner. that I said ancient meets new, but I also feel like what I'm looking at is physical meets non-physical. That there's a meeting place between the physical and the non-physical, a place that makes it easier to see into the non-physical level of reality, just because of the way that the energy is. And I'm seeing this for the Isle of Man in general. Let's look at those ley lines that you're talking about. And what I'm seeing along the ley lines is little energy vortices, sort of dotted along the ley line, little vortals or vortexes of very crystalline energy. I also feel like that it might be associated with an underground stream, which often ley lines are. And there's a particular pull on the energy. It's not a vertical pull, it's a diagonal pull. So it would be like if the ley line's going along this way and there's this vortal or vortex of energy, it goes and pulls that way. So that might be the direction of the underground stream, I suppose. It feels like there is, I don't know, the energy of the little folk. Just like there is in Ireland. You know, I'm seeing like a little leprechaun-like creature sitting at the edge of this energy vortex. He reminds me of a leprechaun because he's got a pipe and typical kind of showing me that kind of picture. What else? Says if you come to here to the Isle of Man, you'll be changed forever. So what I'm getting is it is a place of transition and transformation, and that it offers it offers the energy of that potential of inner transformation for humans who physically go there. And the transformation is one of accumulated ancient knowledge, which we have within each of us, having lived many lives on this earth. And it's like opening the doorway to accelerated evolvement, or being able to integrate and transition to a higher frequency. So go beyond experiences that have been challenging and move into a greater light. Let's see what else. I'm looking at that configuration of the energy swirling and then going off diagonally or almost sideways in some cases. It feels like there's a chasm or almost like cave-like structures underneath. And often that's the case for an underground stream, that there's, you know, the rocks worn away, but it feels quite big. I'm seeing, I guess, a metaphysical symbol. It's like stacks, these little discs stacked on top of each other, making this tiny little column, and they almost look like CDs. And so it feels like a record of ancient history, a record of ancient man, a record of ancient happenings. So it feels like a very ancient place, and that there is what I'm hearing is like an occupation by man that's happened for a very long time, before the history we know about. And so, and there's a record of, it feels like the Isle of Man or that those ley lines contain a record of that human experience, which has been, is so ancient that it's been forgotten in the conscious memory. And that record contains stops and starts to humanity's development. We started, we hit some challenges, I don't know, we failed, we reset the energy. We started, it's got the record of one band of history which feels very dark actually, and very sad. And what I'm hearing about all of this is that this time is different for us, that it's not a stop and start, it's a keep going, it's we've broken through. We're transcending. And so it looks like one of the things that the energy in these ley lines, or the Isle of Man, is doing is it's helping people to kind of put the past behind them. And that's where I'm seeing that this card comes up, because there's this very ancient dark band of history, which it feels that is a time where people got involved or at least people who this is relevant to, got involved in some, I don't know whether to say dark magic or dark practices, or treating each other really unkindly, even horrifically. And I'm seeing that you're asking this question because you're one of those souls that has that in their historical timeline of their past lives. And the key to moving on from that is self-forgiveness. And that's why we got this card. That's why we got this card. And it feels like we should say thank you for asking this question, because it feels like that this is information that is relevant to lots of people, not just you. And, you know, it looks like many people go and visit the Isle of Man and don't know anything consciously about what's happening, but there are things that are happening as a result of them being there in that energy. And what I also see, I guess I should say, is when I look at the Isle of Man, I'm seeing on the west side versus the east side a different energy. So the energy on the east side, probably for 3/4 of the island, is looking really bright. And then the energy on the left side is looking darker, and feels like that's where some of this sadness is contained. And it's almost like, you know, it feels like in the people that forgiving themselves and letting go, there's a planetary letting go, or there is a cleansing of the stored record itself in the Isle of Man. Anyway, very interesting. Thank you so much for sending in that question. Like I said, I didn't know anything, but that's what I got when I tuned into it. And write to me. I'll be interested in knowing where that question came from. And yeah, all right, well, thank you. And I hope there are other people that watch this that benefit from that information.